Okay, you need any leveler in?
Good.
Sorry. So, Mr. Spicer, you've had direct experience of the upsides and the downsides of heads of government communicating directly with their people. You're here at this International Communications in Government Conference. Are we looking at a new age in government communications? Is the era of strategic communications now dead?
No, I think the government needs to understand that technology and these social platforms have really given people around the world a voice to talk about policies and issues and concerns. That's a really good thing. We're connecting people like we've never been before. We're allowing people whose voices haven't been able to be heard. That's a good thing. And I think government needs to understand that it's only going to continue to evolve. But it needs to look at this in a way that protects its people. My hope is that a lot of these technology companies get in front of it and look at how to protect the information and the data that they're getting from a lot of their consumers. So there's sort of a thread here where governments are trying to protect the citizens and the companies are trying to make sure that they're looking after the consumers. And hopefully we can find a balance that governments are able to make sure or find the appropriate balance that allows consumers to have the confidence in these tools that they're using.
Okay. But as a professional governmental communicator, is that direct line of communication always the best way to do things?
In terms of?
In terms of heads of government speaking directly to the people.
One of the things that has changed over the last decade or so is it used to be that there was one medium. You would go to the big broadcasters and the mainstream media and hold a press conference or send out a release and get it covered. Now we have a variety of platforms and different people are on different platforms. Some people are still reading the newspaper and watching television. Some people are using Snapchat or Twitter or Facebook to get their news or reading a website. I think the difference is that we need to understand that we need to look at all these platforms. And if you're a head of government or an employee in a government, you've got to understand that different audiences and different areas of the citizenship are getting their information from different places, and you've got to be much more aggressive in trying to make sure that you're feeding all of those.
You touched on, I think, the growing public concern that there is at the moment with the handling of data by the big social media platforms. You suggested that they had to get ahead of the curve. That suggests you think they're not. And does there come a point when governments need to get involved in this?
Well, at some point, ultimately, they may. But I'm hoping that the private sector solves this. I mean, you look at a company like Facebook in particular that's in the news now, the amount of information they have on all of their various users. They need to be more transparent with what information they have, how that's being shared, and more importantly, how people can protect it. How they can scale it back, how they can eliminate sharing. I think most users check a box when they log into a site that says, I agree, and in most cases probably haven't read the 5 to 15 pages of information. We need to make sure that people are better informed with what information they're being given to those platforms and how it's being used, and then further how it can be kind of scaled back as people engage more and more with that site or that app. So I'm hoping that the private sector really tries to engage further on this because ultimately that's the best way to solve this.
In light of the subject of this conference and in your own obvious expertise, how well do you feel that they've dealt with the communication side of the recent scandals?
I think obviously Facebook's the big gorilla in the room right now, and they clearly can be doing a much better job. They have so many users, not just in the United States, but around the world.